Here's a good story. First day of training is me, Emil, Ben, and Mark. And we're doing live fire. And Marcus was coming that day. And I hadn't really spent a lot of time yet. So you're nervous. And it was a tough day. You're very frustrated because you want to be better already and blah, blah, blah. And Marcus comes on the range. And so we do a full stop, right? Let's go meet him, hang out. And we're going over some props. And Marcus was like going to walk us through the gunfight. And no joke, this girl comes out who's a PA, and she has banana smoothies. And it's not a good look when you're like training to be these guys, these brothers, this true story. And Marcus comes out and he's walking on the range, and then all of a sudden there's a tray of banana smoothies for the actors. And I'm like, this is the worst timing to bring any smoothie or anything out for us. And I won't name the actor, but shamelessly goes and grabs a banana smoothie. Well, we're meeting Marcus for the first time. And I'll never forget Marcus's face of just utter disbelief of like, these are the guys that are playing our brothers, just chugging banana smoothies. I love speech writing when I was in like grade 6 and 7 and like telling stories. I was the class clown, so I loved the attention. Got kicked out of a lot of classes. And I was like an athlete, and then it was a big deal back then when you're an athlete to go into like drama class and stuff. I didn't know it could be like a career when I was in like grade 9, 10, 11, but I loved it. And I went into drama class, fell in love with it, great teacher, and then I was playing hockey, and then my knee went. And then I had just, it was one of those moments where you're a fork in the road in your life. And I was very cocky and thought I could do it like no problem. And which wasn't the case. And I went to New York and started studying and had an amazing teacher, Sheila Gray. And she really kind of just straightened me out. And I never got into it like I want to be like in big movies or anything like that. It was always like I want to do just these stories that are meaningful and try and just keep pushing the boundaries of being an actor. I love these, you know, Sean Penn, Daniel Day-Lewis, Hoffman, these kind of guys growing up. So I don't know, I kind of went that route. I at least tried. I just wouldn't quit. I was very like, just the stubbornness worked in that part.
So take me through that first big break, like, and be, as, I guess, sort of specific about what the film was and what you thought about that role and that kind of thing.
I guess my first big break, the springboard would be Friday Night Lights. I had done an incredible movie called Snakes on a Plane. Many Oscars, I don't even know how many. That was like my first speaking role. And then I did like a guest star, all in Vancouver. And then I did a movie called The Covenant, and I was beyond green. And then I read for, they wanted me to read for Jason Street for Friday Night Lights. The more interesting role to me was Riggins, and then I asked to read for Riggs. And I put myself on tape in Vancouver, and then I think literally like 5 days later, I was screen testing at Universal Studios in LA, and that show kind of just critically caught fire. It was just an incredible springboard of like no marks, no rehearsal, natural lighting. And Pete Berg, who created the show, obviously from the film, and created just a great just atmosphere for us to like fail. That's kind of where it all started. Pete and I had this little boat, and we were in Austin, Texas, and he had Lone Survivor, and he's like, man, I just read this book, and I'm trying to get this war movie made, and I want you to play this guy named Mike Murphy. And I had no idea about it. The story, Mike, Marcus, anything. And I'm like, all right, give me the book. And so he gave me the book, read it in a day, and I called him and I'm like, let's go. And it's been honestly the most beautiful experience I've had, and it's changed my life in so many ways for the better. We started shooting 12 years ago, which is crazy. And just being around the SEALs, the two-plus week boot camp that we had, and Marcus is now a brother of mine. Dan is like family. It's been a beautiful experience.
Tell me about that actor boot camp.
Oh my God.
Like, what was it like, man?
The boot camp was no joke, man. We had live fire day one, and I think there was 6 or 7 SEALs. Ray Mendoza, I mean, these guys were just, Ray Mendoza, who's one of the most celebrated, Silver Star, is a dear friend of mine still. He's trained me for Terminalist, Lone Survivor, True Detective. I love him. And he's also a brother. And boot camp was no joke. Live fire, blindfolded, on the range, doing all these mag changes to how we fight or how they fight. And especially with Mike, being the leader of that group, he's more or less dictating if you push left, push right, push back, push forward, and dictating the movement of the group. And if we engage more, pull back. And so that responsibility is on me. And so it was a different sense of learning, of like trying to read the situation. And they would literally send us up the mountain, and these SEALs would be in Taliban gear, and we'd be using simunitions. And we would just hike up into these trees, and they would ambush us. And I gotta be the, get ready, you're, making these calls. And obviously it was a learning experience. There was one time, no joke, that we were on flat ground and on this open field, and they ambushed us, and you're making these calls of push left, push right, and I moved us down into this ditch area for cover to see where the fire was coming from. I looked over, and Mendoza was 2 feet from me in the tally gear with a gun right on me. And I had no idea how they did it. Like, I thought I was doing a good job. And we were all dead. So it's just an incredible learning experience to like be a part and see how these guys fight. They fight very differently from every other force. Yeah, they were just hard on us, but in the best way. And I think that's the only way to learn, especially when we were 2-3 weeks out. And I got better, And here's a good story. First day, no one knows this story. And first day of training is me, Emil, Ben, and Mark. And we're doing live fire. And Marcus was coming that day. And Ben had driven from Dallas, I think, to Albuquerque where we shot. So he had a lot of time with Marcus. And I hadn't really spent a lot of time yet. So you're nervous, naturally. And we knew Marcus was coming at like later on in the day, and it's hot. And it was a tough day. You're very frustrated because you want to be better already and blah, blah, blah. And Marcus comes on the range. And so we do a full stop, right? Let's go meet him, hang out. And we're going over some props, and Marcus was like gonna walk us through the gunfight. And no joke, this girl comes out who's a PA, and she has banana smoothies. And it's not a good look when you're like training to be these guys, these brothers, this true story. And Marcus comes out and he's walking on the range, and then all of a sudden there's a tray of banana smoothies for the actors. And I'm like, this couldn't be the worst. This is the worst timing to bring any smoothie or anything out for us. And I won't name the actor, but shamelessly goes and grabs a banana smoothie. Well, we're meeting Marcus for the first time, or most of us are. And I'll never forget Marcus's face of just utter disbelief of like, these are the guys that are playing our brothers, just chugging banana smoothies.
You know, when I watch the movie, I'm like, wow, that really looks like Afghanistan. Like, I've seen pictures and things like that. Tell me where the movie was actually filmed. And then maybe something that people might not know, something you won't find on an IMDb page about.
Yeah, we shot in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, up in the mountains. And it's obviously, we're not going to shoot in the actual Kush Mountains, but it's really very, very close to it. And honestly, that's something I learned in prep when we got there, because I'm like, we're going to shoot Albuquerque for Afghanistan, but it's super close, you know, with the trees and those tree lines and up in the mountains. What people don't know is that we would take, at like 4 a.m., we would take the ski lift all the way to the top. And it was a beautiful start to your day, because you're just sitting there, you're in your fatigues, you're going over the day's work, and you're just climbing this mountain. And the camera gear, all the crew, and that really kind of set the tone of just like, we're all in this together. We're going to serve this story as best we can. And I think when you get up there and you're alone with just your little crew doing this together, separated from everything, you know, on location like that, it really set the tone and put you there. And nothing beats a live location, you know. You don't want to do this in studio. You really don't. So, I mean, we shot at the base in Albuquerque, which was awesome. You know, you say no acting required when you get to go, and there's like Blackhawks coming through, and it's just, you just be in the moment with the setting and you'll be all right.
I've always wondered this, you know, I big Saving Private Ryan guy. I love
Me
war
too.
movies. I've always been fascinated with how they're filmed. So I'd love to just take a minute to talk about like the special effects of the film, because it comes off very real, very gritty, that type of thing. So could you set the stage for how they make these bullets hit the ground and ricochets and artillery explosions?
Yeah.
Like, talk to the work that goes on behind the scenes.
Man, regarding all the stunts and the, I think with all the training, obviously, what they put us through, you feel more ready than ever. But you have to tip the hat to the stunt unit, second unit. You know, there's so many injuries on this thing, man, because everybody was so wanted to do it justice, and they pushed to the limit and then some. So my double, JJ Dashno, who's been my double now 12 years, I mean, them falling down the hill, I mean, we would do these small beats, right? The close-ups, and you're selling out, you're doing it. But when you go and watch these guys drop 40, 50 feet off these cliffs, it's something else. And I think that's really talks to how visceral it brings you into it, right? And it just goes to show that everyone was sacrificing anything that needs to be to do the story right. But you have to tip the hat to them. And I think with those RPGs going off, it was an incredible experience, you know? You have these simunitions, and every time you're firing, you feel the gun. So it's not like we're putting everything in post or anything. That we do a lot of that now for safety. But I loved it. The reloads. I remember this story. It's right when the gunfight kicks off, and I give Wahlberg the green light, and I think I whisper to him or something, "Do it." And then it goes, everything, all hell breaks out, right? And there's a close-up on me, and I think I'm by this stump or something, and the gun jams on me. Not supposed to jam. And literally, you're just conditioned at this point, and you figure it out. And it's in the movie, and we called cut. And Mark Simos, a sniper SEAL, one of the guys that trained me, all I hear when we call cut is "F yeah." And he's just so pumped that it didn't like put me off or take me out of the shot. We kept it, and it just that we reloaded. And you could just tell how much they were just so proud of the work that they had put in and that it's shown on camera. So it's those little moments that are just magical, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I can imagine him being like, thank God this
He's
guy
so
knew how-"
proud.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
good on you for working that jam. man.
I know.
Yeah.
But you're hammering the gun against the rock, and you're figuring it out. And Chris Karachi is another SEAL that I have to tip the hat to. Really took me under his wing, beyond a man's man, like just a warrior, and just a great guy. And it's like, a lot of people don't know, when you have a hat or your shoes or your uniform, they make it so it's like my uniform would be clean, and then I get shot here, shot in the foot, so now we have a different set of shoes with a hole in them. Your next uniform, if you're shooting later in the gunfight, is this with a hole. Mike obviously passed with, or got shot in the stomach. So then your uniform has to tell that story as well. So your changes are different. And my hat, you lose your hat. I lost my hat, I think, after the first fall. And Chris Karachi would sit in the back of this trailer with all my hats and tie the seal knots on them. Didn't ask him, did nothing. And he would just do it. And he would just, like, they cared so much. And that really kind of just set the tone as well, of just those little things, right? And man, he was awesome with me.
I love how in the movie you guys are loaded down with gear, and it really looks like you are people in the mountains struggling with
a
shit ton of gear.
Yeah.
Were those gears, was it 5 pounds, or were you really carrying like 80 pounds?
I mean, just your kit, all those mags, it's gonna sound, if I'm like, yeah, we were carrying 80, it's just like we get breaks, we get lunches, we get our trailers waiting for us at the end of the day, hot shower. So it's like the one thing, because I get shot in the foot and then I send a grenade up range. And the one thing I would whine about to myself, this is like, no one knows this, but it's so f***ing cold up there. You're at like 11,000 feet, and I was getting frostbite. I wouldn't dare say a word about, like, start whining about, and they're pouring blood on your foot, which makes it colder, but you're like getting frostbite and you can't really walk right, which is probably good because he's shot in the foot. But I remember whining to myself in between takes of like, do I say anything? Do I say that my foot is freezing? No, you don't. But it's those little moments, you know, that put you in the moment, and it helps you react to it. And yeah, it's those little things that, being on location around all the SEALs at all times, that just make it real. And I'm proud of it. And I think I'm just so grateful it came out the way it did. And I honestly, according to them, we did it justice, and that's all that matters.
So Taylor, I want to just sort of shift, and there's an Amazon Prime video series called The Terminalist. Can you
never heard of it?
Can you explain that for, you know, sell it to the camera for someone who doesn't know what The Terminalist is?
Okay, The Terminalist. Jack Carr, SEAL, retired. Love the guy. One of the most upbeat, positive people I've ever met, and it's genuine because I questioned it at first. So beyond supportive. And Chris Pratt plays James Reese, the lead of, I think there's 7 now. Everyone a New York Times bestseller. If you haven't read it, go read it. And I play Ben Edwards, Reese's best friend. And if you haven't watched it, I won't ruin it for you. There's a couple twists in the show. And we just wrapped, so we did season 1, and then season 2 of Pratt's, of the James Reese story that's following the book, is gonna start shooting in a few months. And then between that, follow with me, we did the Ben Edwards prequel series, which we just wrapped, which honestly I'm super proud of. It came out great. And again, yeah, let's bring Ray Mendoza back up. He trained me for Lone, True Detective, Terminalist, and then obviously the Ben Edwards Dark Wolf, it's called. Terminalist Dark Wolf is the Ben Edwards story. So he was on that with me. He's kind of your bullshit meter. Jared Shaw, another SEAL, who's an EP on this, on Terminalist, a writer. He's in the show. I've become incredibly close with him. Great guy, another bullshit meter. So I think, you know, this is obviously fictional, which is very different from Murphy, Red Wing's story, Lone Survivor. So I have a lot more room to kind of make Ben mine, which I love. And if you know anything about the community, no two SEALs are the same. Truly. There's so many different personalities, ethnicities, but I love that about the SEALs. So playing Ben has been so fun. And I think the one thing that is very similar is one thing that we're tracking is the authenticity of the SEAL work in regards to the weapon work. And I love playing Ben because he's such a wild card, and you'll learn it in Dark Wolf. And he's very anti-bureaucracy. And he goes against the grain, which is a lot of fun to play. And I think that moral compass of his, it's very strong. His beliefs are very strong. And it's a guy that is willing to make a difference at all costs. And you feel that in Dark Wolf. And that's really what it's about. It makes you proud of the work that you put in, to be blunt. And it was all worth it. And again, it's crazy. It's been 12 years since we started prepping for Lone. And I hope to do another 10, 20, you know. As long as they allow me to carry this torch of Mike Murphy, I'm gonna do it. You know, it's been an experience that has changed my life for nothing but the better. And I'm just grateful, yeah. Dan Murphy just walked in. Dan, I'm talking you down right now. I'm saying how our experience was so terrible.
Yeah, that's
Dan,
favorite guy. Just caught and took Michael's whole persona to a T.
perfect. Thank you, sir.
Good. I'll let you guys
All good.
continue.
Okay.
His manager was wondering where you were. They just finished up there, so Kevin's chatting and we'll hook up.
Okay, I'll find you.
Okay.
The best, man.
So that's Murphy's dad.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, because I haven't met him yet. So
Oh, yeah, that's Dan Murphy.
that's awesome. That's badass.
Isn't that just like, it's beautiful,
Yeah.
man.
Normally, if somebody interrupts the interview, I'll be sort of like, what
Yeah,
the hell?
get the guy.
I think I realized that. I was like, okay, don't say anything stupid, Tom.
It's not bad to be interrupted by Dan Murphy.
Correct. That we might use that actually.
You should use that.